Absolutely. It's pretty crazy. It's in my living room, and I've had Tom Bergeron and Evan Handler and Marley Matlin and Harry Hamlin, and this month Phil Rosenthal is coming in. He's the creator of Everybody Loves Raymond, and he has a documentary out called Exporting Raymond about his taking it to the USSR, and it is crazy. You guys have to go see it. This documentary is off the hook. I mean, they have absolutely no sense of humor in Russia at all.
Or would you?
Well, I live in West Hollywood, so I know that for a fact.
Wow, crazy.
Yeah, it's a whole different attitude towards everything.
Oh my
I mean, that was always like if every Russian movie joke is that they don't have a sense of humor.
And they drink. Oh my God, I mean, and I was actually thinking as I was watching the movie, what would I have done if I was Phil? Because assimilating into the culture, I mean, everything, like he went to this family dinner and they were just doing shots. They kept pouring, everything was, let's do a shot. And they're doing shots. And as a sober person, you know what? Because you'd be insulting them, you know, like big time. And it wouldn't, like, I'm sober. I don't think that those words mean anything in Russia.
We have to be very careful, Vicki and I, because we're two Jews and we talk with our hands a lot. So, like, we're like, yes, it's like I can't talk at the same time as you because both our hands are.
I have insurance for that.
It's synergy.
So that's cool. So you're sober, obviously.
I am.
Do you think that has affected your like what you do with this workshop or salon? Like,
it's not workshop.
Salon. Last time I say it.
Andrew, it's not just you, by the way. Andrew's a problem with a lot of words.
No, it's really a crap name. It's called Women Who Write, but actually I have more. No, it's not a writers group.
Right.
It's not about women who write. It's readings for women by women who write. But I have men who read all the time now because when Tom Bergeron's book was dropping, I sent him a note on Facebook and I said, "Oh, I wish you were a girl because I'd really like you to come read." And he said, "I'll wear a skirt." And I said, "You know what? I made this thing up. I can change it." So he came with Evan Handler from Sex and the City and Ron Zimmerman, and so now I've been having men all the time, but I only have women in the audience, and
it's famous men.
And it
it can't just be like
can't be a
it can't just be like Judah reading.
No, it's like Harry Hamlin.
Right.
Yeah, it's like cool man, And so I have these readings. I have a singer-songwriter who opens, and then there's 3 readers. I always read. I serialize my book, which is called Don't Jump, which is about, a lot of it is about, it's a story of redemption, but it's kind of me getting to my bottom. But it's sex, drugs, rock and roll, and celebrity kind of all mished in there. But anyway, and then we have this provocative discussion at the end, and it is very much like a meeting. I mean, as a matter of fact, I was thinking about it today coming down here that I'm going to say at the next one, hey, all of you in here who have never been to a meeting, this is what it's like. Because I think a lot of people that have never been to a meeting, you know, my image of a meeting before I went was like a bunch of guys with cigarettes and in a basement and coffee and scary, creepy, and
you found out you were right.
And there are in New York some meetings like that.
Well, I got sober in New York. That's how it was like.
And some of them are cool.
I loved it. I would not have been able to get sober if not for these meetings in New York. Where, I mean, I got sober in this meeting in New York called Midnight, which was on Houston and Barrack. It's right across from the Film Forum, and you had to walk up these dark black stairs, and you'd walk into the room, and half the room was smoking. Half the room was non-smoking. And
well, that had to be a long time ago if you were allowed to smoke in the meeting.
It was about 13 years ago, and you had some guy sitting on the floor named Stan the Hat, who looked like he had been sitting there for about 80 years. And you like walked in and you're like, hey, this is home. And it was fun. It was a fun, fun place to get sober. I'd probably have a harder time in the LA area.
Do you think like being in recovery, like a lot of what this show's about is not so much about getting sober, but it's about once you're sober, what do people do in recovery? Like, does it change their lives?
It completely changed my life. There's no coincidence that I've been sober for 9 years and I started my book 9 years ago and I finished it. And, you know, it's no coincidence that I started this literary salon in sobriety and it's a success. And, you know, everything that I'm doing now, would not be happening at all. You know, I mean, I was a rock and roll promoter when I was using, and, you know, I had a pretty good run doing it, but my life was very different.
Right. It's tough not to use in the rock and roll world.
Yeah, although most of the musicians I know now are sober, and even
They're
the
starting
guys,
to be.
even the dinosaurs that
Yeah.
were famous for using back then, they're almost all sober, and they insist their bands be sober and their crews, and it's pretty different. I mean, there are certainly still people partying.
Well, that's the lifestyle. I mean, it caters to it.
Well, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? But that's kind of, it's becoming passé almost. I mean, I think people that take art seriously are starting to see that, the use of drugs and alcohol don't really necessarily correspond to better art.
Well, I think for a while it might work. I mean, I think for a while, I'm not saying that alcohol and drugs helps you, but, there's a certain point when you look at a lot of the bands, especially from the 80s, most of them are still living in the 80s. And they go on tour every summer. They have the same they have the same tours. Poison. I mean, because they haven't grown. To them, it's still 1986.
Right.
And I know.
They didn't know when to break up like the Beatles.
Well, and you and I aren't probably the biggest U2 fans. I mean, I'm U2 the old school, but not U2 but at least they've come out with a new album. At least they haven't been playing Under a Blood Red Sky for the last 25 years.
Yeah, we've also sort of seen the death of the music industry. I mean, it's nothing like it was. The internet's really changed it. And
Completely. I mean, nobody goes to clubs anymore. I was a musician contacted me today and asked if I could help him put butts in the seat to do a gig in New York, and use my contacts. And I was like, my friends don't go out anymore. Nobody goes to clubs anymore. Those days are over.
It's amazing, isn't it? It just disappeared.
Because we can watch, we can sit at home, we can turn on our computer, and we can watch anything, everything, whenever we want.
Right. But there's nothing new. It really kind of upsets me. I mean, when's the last time a really great new band has come along? I mean, it's...
Well, I didn't go to Coachella, but I think there are people who would disagree with you.
You mean Lady Gaga? I'm totally joking.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of new stuff coming out, but what comes out and what you actually think becomes commercial is just so derivative at this
what
point.
becomes commercial,
Right.
but I think the stuff that we aren't hearing,
Right.
I think there's still some exciting stuff
Well,
going on.
it's that tribalism. We've got all these thousands and thousands of very small groups of sort of eclectic fan bases, which is interesting. I mean, it's different, but you certainly don't get the development of musical artists like you got in the 70s.
You're obviously a lot more into music than most people, because I just listen to what comes out.
Right.
I don't really think about it too, although I haven't really bought a new album.
Well, first of all, there aren't albums
and
anymore.
and there's no buying anymore. Everybody's
Right.
just doing it, getting the stuff on the internet and figuring out ways to steal it. And
Right. It's unfortunate.
Anyways, the number here is 877-830-830, 877-830-830. We were talking about before, because we were talking about it last week, and I really think it's probably the biggest issue that will face any 12-step group in the next, decades to come, is the anonymity factor.
Right.
I mean, I can't think of a bigger issue that they're going to be forced to deal with.
this is a big issue for me because in my book, which I started writing as a novel, because I didn't want to give up anybody, and I didn't want to break the traditions. So I started as a novel. Then
So it's going to be fiction?
So it started out as a novel, and I've now adjusted that, and I'm calling it a fictionalized memoir.
Right.
So
Ever since A Million Little Pieces, everything's fictionalized memoir.
yeah, well,
Nobody dares write a memoir
I
anymore.
have the opposite issue of him, because he was saying things were true and they weren't. I was
Right.
saying things weren't true, but they
But they
are.
were.
Well, some of it I made some up, but for me, the traditions are really important. I love that. I love this whole issue coming up, though, because I do think these things were decided in a different era with different issues, and I think the fact that recovery is more accessible now gets a lot of people sober.
Right. I something we talk about. There's, we especially out in LA or New York, we think that we're the vanguard of every, but there are 48 states in the middle, and people have to know that there is help out there.
It's really important, and also we were also talking in the car. Well, we were talking earlier in the show actually about this image. I especially think for women that they're going to walk into these rooms and it's going to be these scary old derelicts in there with no teeth, and it couldn't be further from the truth. I actually wrote a treatment about my fellowship, which is a different fellowship because I smoked pot. That was my drug of choice.
Cool.
And
just turn the mic more in front of your face.
Oh,
Just have
sorry.
the engineers having a
this
little
big black thing, I have
Yes,
to...
yes, it shouldn't be that hard.
There you go,
yeah.
so much
Actually,
better.
at least this time it's me doing it instead
They're really
of you shoving in
omnidirectional.
my...
Unfortunately, they're very omnidirectional
Okay,
mics.
so tell
yeah,
me when...
Just straight
okay.
in.
So,
There you go.
it's so phallic. So anyway, yeah, to just demystify, I think it's really important. I think it keeps a lot of people out of the rooms because they don't know what it's about. And I think the more... Do you guys watch Rescue Me?
No.
No.
Unbelievable show. I mean, I think the way they handle the whole issue of addiction is probably the most realistic take, except the only drag is that everybody keeps going out. And
Well, that sort of is realistic sometimes.
it is and it isn't. I mean, everybody's always going out, and they don't really work their programs.
Right. Well, they want the drama.
Yes.
We actually have a call. You want to take the call?
Yes, let's take the call. Or we
There
don't.
you go. It's Barbara. Barbara, are you
Hi.
there? Welcome to KLEAN Radio.
Hi, Vicki.
Barbara, hi! Facebook friend! Hi, Barbara.
Hi.
Yay!
I just wanted to listen,
Okay.
and Vicki, try not to insult the host too much.
I'm a little snarky on Facebook. I'm behaving myself, Barbara. Have you been listening?
Can I call you Barbie?
We would never have you in the salon.
Yikes.
Be nice to these guys.
This is great. It sounds like that SNL skit. What was it? The Mike Myers, the Barbara Streisand.
Coffee Talk?
Coffee Talk.
Coffee Talk.
Don't be me.
Yes.
Four. I think it was 4, right?
I don't know. I didn't watch it enough.
So, Barbara, how do you know Vicki?
Well, we have a lot of mutual friends. I used to live in Los Angeles as the entertainment business. It's a long story. I'm a psychic medium. It's a whole, who cares? But the point I want is, and we have lovely funniness together, and we're just a couple of old. I'm a former rock and roller Jewish girl from Chicago, so I relate.
Oh, that's great.
And you're from the Bronx, so holla.
Yeah, well, I have a couple of questions, but first,
Yeah.
there's Janelle Monáe, M-O-N-E-A. She was at the Grammys.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant, young, incredible artists that are out right now. Celio, or Celio, whatever his name is.
CeeLo.
Love him. There's, I mean, I'm just so blown away with what the kids are doing. Jessie J. Look up Jessie J.
Okay.
Oh, my God. I mean, brilliant.
You could just put that on our
They seem to all
Facebook.
be very hip, very deep, and very sober.
Oh, right on.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're very, it's not rap, it's music. They sing. I'm trying to...
And they've been outed.
I am trying to remember because I'm older and, I'm not of the generation. But this gal, Janae, is a black woman who's just a genius. And her videos are amazing. There's a video called Tightrope, and it takes place in a mental institution it's totally, oh my God, it's so low key and it's so hip. And she dances like James Brown.
Wow. Barbara, you were going to ask us a question.
What was the second question? Because that was a very big
good
statement.
statement.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's my question.
Yes.
I've always felt being the tribal hippie thing. I lived in Marin. There was some need for people to sit in a circle and break the vibration between each other by using some alternative drugs. And I think in our society we ended up overdoing everything, overeating, over everything, and just got lost in what these might be
And
useful
this is a
for.
question, Barbara. What's the
So the
question?
question is there a place for, let's say, marijuana? I'm not talking about methamphetamine. And I'm also wondering how you feel about people who actually benefit from using marijuana for medical. Because there are some people with diseases that, quite frankly,
Without a doubt, people
Yeah,
with glaucoma
look, I
can be
mean,
majorly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I own several rehabs. I've owned psych hospitals in the past. I am actually, believe it or not, pro legalization of all drugs. I'm very much a libertarian when it comes